Hi, welcome back to season 2 on Millennials Talk today, and we are going to cover about mental health, starting with episode 1 on dealing with difficult colleagues at work. I am Sonia, and you've probably seen me on the previous season on fitness and smartphones. And this is Susan.
Yes. Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Wayne Yu, and I'm working on healthcare and financial literacy.
Hi guys, I'm Xuan. My full name is Xuan Sang Wu. I'm the founder of 787 Healthcare Call Center and other mHealth projects.
So, Sonia, let's talk about it, right? So, from your work experience, do you find many difficult persons or people before when you work?
Okay, I can start off if you'd like. So, based on the projects that I've done, because I think it also depends on personality. So for me, I'm a very objective person, so I'm not quite emotional at work. It's just very straightforward, efficiency first. So depending on who I'm working with, some colleagues can be emotional, and some colleagues can take it personally. And that could rise up to a little bit of fights between them, or, drama, which is unnecessary. Yeah. But so yeah, that's the general feel of.
It affects the work a lot, right? Because if you are a result-driven person, then it will be difficult to do if there are like dramas and the work are not done.
Yeah.
We do not meet the deadlines and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And it's unnecessary.
It's so unnecessary.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think when you?
Yeah.
Well, defining difficulty it will be quite different from other people, So one thing that I would define as difficult may not be difficult for you or for other people. So I think it's really important to try to see things from both sides as well. So a lot of times that we have a lot of work and things that we have to solve, people that we have to meet, and sometimes there'll be a lot of misunderstanding. So how do we try to understand misunderstandings so that we're fair for both sides, and we can we try to put ourselves in their shoes so that we know both sides before trying to tackle the problem.
Right. Myanmar people usually communicate the communication problem. They have communication problem. Like even if they communicate in Burmese, then sometimes there is breakdown and there is misunderstanding always. And I think that's what happened right now.
You have a lot of Burmese colleagues.
So I think the majority of our population is some kind of culture called Ana, right? So they don't usually speak out, and they are not quite open when dealing with people. So as a result, at the end of the day, it could lead to a lot of misunderstanding among each other, because they have something different inside.
They do not express a lot.
And it starts to burst out at the end of the day. So
in the wrong way.
Yeah, in the wrong way.
I mean, we can also use ana as a good source of things, right? Because when we feel ana, then we want to please other people. We want to help other people. We want to be warm towards each other. So if we can try to manage expectations, can you actually do this, and what do you want from me, So if we can manage that cultural, given cultural aspect plus managing expectations, I think we can do something,
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, it is good if it's genuine, of course, but I mean, when the way you speak.
What is ana for people who don't understand?
Yeah, we have to define. There is no definition.
I can't really translate that.
For example, when you delegate a task to a middle manager, he or she might feel that it would be too much for him or her, right? But they most of the time wouldn't deny the decision coming from the top management. But in reality, they couldn't do it. They couldn't execute the task fully. So they feel frustrated, and even they might quit because of that.
Right. and they don't really speak it out. I
Yeah.
think sometimes, like with one of the projects that I was doing, was that we have one person who's sort of our mentor at work. So what he does is he listens privately to each colleague.
Right.
So
that's
what I
one of
do
the
at
ways.
work, the other colleague doesn't know, like what I say to my mentor. So my mentor sort of knows everything, and he knows how to resolve the conflict. So he talks to each person like one meeting, like private session, one-on-one with one of the colleagues every week, once per week. So that way we don't really fight anymore because he knows everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the techniques to know the inner self of the people at work is to keep a kind of a suggestion box, which will let the employees expose their feelings, true feelings, anonymously.
Yeah, that's also a good
Yeah.
idea. That's also a good
Actually,
idea,
like
right?
surveys could work as well.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What do you think
Yeah.
this week? Do you feel la la la? Do you think do you like this? Why don't you like this?
I actually distributed a series of survey questions last month, and from there I realized that I wasn't very transparent in
Answering those surveys.
yeah, like in performing the evaluation
Oh, okay.
on them.
Interesting.
Because like there are a number of KPIs, key performance indicators we make use of in giving bonuses every year. But like those are not actually disclosed to them in the first place. So this year I'm going to share these KPIs with them, and then let them know what which indicators we are using
Okay.
to measure their performance.
How do you
that's
deal
one
with that
solution.
kind of
Yeah.
suggestions with difficult people? They may be more difficult to convince things that you're trying to do. They may have some insecurities or distrust. How do you try to solve those with that kind of suggestion box?
Yeah. What do you think,
Yeah.
Susan?
I think if it's social causes, like some of them may not have a problem at work. They might have a problem with relationships, problems, or families, or stuff like that. So we might really need to focus on them and then ask them what the underlying causes of what's really happening to them.
And actually,
that.
to add on that from a more like academic point of view, right? There's this theory which could be applied. I've actually forgotten the name, but I'll explain what it is. So people say that, sometimes at work, when employee X makes a mistake, you think that it's X's fault and he should be kicked out. He or she should be kicked out. But sometimes it's the system. So rather than dealing with the employee X or Y or whoever, like blaming the apple in the barrel, it's usually the barrel that you've got to change. So the whole system. It could be, correcting solutions, human behavior. How do you change that? And I think every workplace is different. So you've just got to figure it out, whatever it does.
So you mean like behavioral changes?
Yeah,
or
behavioral
stuff?
changes, like
I think it will be
maybe new
difficult, right?
policies to change the behavior and the work culture, because it's the system that is at fault at large. It's easier to pick on someone, say this
Right.
one's at fault. But the reality is, what
system
research has
itself
shown is, if you pick on one person at fault and you kick that person out, the problem's still going to go on. Because it's not that person, it's actually the work culture.
So you're suggesting that in order to deal with difficult people, so you have to change the whole system.
Change the whole
like
system.
Change the standard operating
Yeah.
procedures.
Yeah, that's actually one of the latest findings. Because even if you look at big organizations, previously they're like, okay, this one's at fault. This one, they just sort of focus on that person, but they forget that it's actually the system. Because the point is, even if you take that person out, the problem still exists.
Yes.
Because it's easy for that other person to also commit that
Right.
problem. So.
Yeah, I agree with Sonia on that. Keeping a concrete system in the workplace is really important in day-to-day communications. Even like there are obviously there will be a number of different employees at work, and their mood swing, and because of it's actually.
Can you give us a specific example?
Specific example of a person.
You don't have to mention any names.
No name.
No names.
No
but
names.
yes, like I said, X. Or
So Mr.
well,
X or Miss
I'll
X
take
or
my
Mrs. X.
immediate subordinate as an example. She is really smart. She is super smart, actually smarter than I am, and she's been contributing a lot to the academy since it was founded. And this lady is how to say, it's really hard to deal with. She is tough, strong, and she's very good in setting up SOPs, system from bottom to the top. She'll be able to implement the system in a very rigid way. So what happened to hard system is that the managers couldn't actually follow the system immediately,
right.
and she would feel frustrated with that, and sometimes she couldn't bear with it, and she has very good at giving justification to her answers. So the managers couldn't defend her accusation, and so I mean at the end of the day the managers kind of feel frustrated with the system and
Want to
happen to
leave.
quit.
Yeah, I get it.
They don't speak out, and they don't.
Right.
But still, if it's a procedures to follow, then
Yeah.
you really have to follow it as a team.
Yeah.
If not,
What I realized is that maybe step by step.
Yeah, step by
step by
step.
step is better. Right?
Tsunami
Step.
change? No.
Yeah.
It will break down. I think a lot of businesses here are going through that because the country is going through a transition.
Exactly.
Position.
So everyone has to be patient.
Taking baby steps.
Yes, baby steps. Yeah.
That's key.
How about in your factory, dealing with difficult?
Actually, I relate to exactly what he said. So I would be the rigid one. That's why when he said, me. So I usually, every person's working style is different, right? But for me, it's okay, plan A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, implement, no one follows, nobody cares. So then I realized maybe a more effective way is that I cannot just implement what I learned overseas or whatever. Myanmar has its own work culture, so I have to adapt, change things, and then go, okay, does everyone understand what it is? Sort of have to deal with personal friendships too, because it's a lot of the work cultures here are dependent on friendships. Right?
Exactly.
So sort of being personal but also very professional at the same time. There's a hard line, right? It's so hard. So try to maintain the balance and then steps. Yeah.
I think management is kind of art. So
Right.
it's you sometimes get soft, sometimes get feel hardcore about yourself.
Tough.
Yeah, tough. Yeah.
Sometimes it's harder, and sometimes it's get resolved. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you run your business as a family as well. So
Yeah.
how do you try to balance that, family values?
We should really keep the boundaries between the personal and the business, because because even at home, I still have to call them mom and dad, right? And then here is it's my boss. They're my bosses as well. So whatever it is, it's gonna be. It's important to keep the boundaries between that personal and the business.
Okay, so when you do you have any personal experiences that you would like to share with regards to dealing with difficult colleagues at work?
So when I work with the Executive Education Center, with my work, then I deal with a lot of foreigners who are over 60 years old. Have had about more than 40 years of experience, and they come from a very different culture compared to Myanmar culture. So it's very difficult to convince them, okay, you need to change certain things, how they think, how they structure the course, so that people in Myanmar would like to attend our classes.
Right.
But because I'm only in my early 30s and it's like half their age, it's quite difficult to convince them. So I try to, and I know I need to help them, so I can't just go and say, well, you need to stop doing this. I need to be more constructive, So instead of just me trying to convince them to change, I try to bring in case studies from other places, bring in other people who are comparable to their ages, so that the two of them can talk, so it will be just not just me, but a group of people helping to change the course of things, so that we can use the materials in Myanmar.
Yeah, interesting.
One of my techniques I use at work is listening to them. So I usually let them talk first, and then I wouldn't say a word to them, even if what they are saying is wrong. So I will let them speak out first, and then I'll try to minimize the negative feelings they have in mind. Like trying to reassure them and making things more stable. And this helped me a lot in managing them.
So this is all for now today for the Millennials Talk.
And I had fun discussing on this topic, and I learned a lot from you guys as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me here too.
Like, share, comment.
Bye-bye.
If they're not meant to be.
Okay.
Right.
Being
If you don't
optimistic.
care,
Yeah.
I don't care as well.
Yeah.